Hey friends, happy Monday and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. If you're new here, hello and welcome. I am Taylor and I share What's for Dinner videos just like this every Monday to hopefully motivate you to cook more for your family and give you some new meal ideas. I've got 7 meals to share with you from this past week, all of which are pretty easy except for probably the meatloaf. The meatloaf is probably the one that is like the most labor intensive, but everything else is pretty throw together and easy. So let's go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. Starting off with Friday night, we had a barbecue pulled pork flatbread pizza. Last week you saw me make the barbecue pulled pork in the crock pot and I had some leftovers that we used for a flatbread pizza. I have my flatbread here. It got broken in the freezer, but I'm just putting it in my pan and then I let it heat up in the oven for about 5 minutes while it preheats. And then I'm going to start adding on my toppings. I did some barbecue sauce and then a bunch of the pulled pork, and then a little bit of mozzarella cheese and some cheddar cheese, and then I stick this back in the oven on 425 for 10 to 12 minutes until the flatbread gets as crispy as you want it. And then we just serve this with a simple salad on the side and of course just some fresh veggies for Lily. This is always a favorite for using up leftover pulled pork. Saturday night we had fish sandwiches, which are super easy. I always use some sort of frozen fish for them. And then we found these Red Lobster Cheddar Bay Biscuit cod fillets in the freezer section on markdown the other week at Aldi. I bought 2 boxes. They were $3.50 a box, which I thought was a really good price. And so I cooked up both boxes for dinner this night because I was sure that Andy would eat 2 pieces. And then I was like, well, if nobody eats the other ones, we can always just reheat them in the air fryer, which is exactly what we ended up doing. Andy ate two sandwiches and the rest of us had one on one sandwich. And then the leftovers reheated great in the air fryer. I cooked them for about 15 minutes, flipping halfway through on about 375, and then served them on the brioche buns with some American cheese, and then fresh veggies on the side, and your choice of chips. I think everybody chose Cool Ranch Doritos. Sunday was the Super Bowl and I made a sausage ROTEL Velveeta dip in the Instant Pot, but I used it on the crock pot function. This is our snacky food before dinner. So I am browning up some breakfast sausage with some taco seasoning, and then once that's all cooked up, I drained off excess grease, added in 1 can of ROTEL, and then almost a whole thing of Velveeta. I had used a portion of this for some other recipe, I cannot remember what, but it was in the fridge and I was like, I need to use that. So it was almost a whole I think 32 ounce thing of Velveeta. I cubed it up, added that in there, and then put the lid on this on the crock pot function for the Instant Pot and let it cook on low. And after about an hour, I went in and stirred it up just to get everything nice and combined. And then I just let it sit on low until we were ready to eat it later in the evening. And we just had that with some chips. This is our snacky pre-dinner food. We ate this pre-game and then towards the start of the Super Bowl. And then for dinner we actually had buffalo chicken quesadillas. So I have some chicken breast here that I'm putting in my crock pot along with 1 package of ranch seasoning and then whatever I had left of some buffalo sauce. I even added a little bit of water to that jar to use up the very last bit in there. And then I just mixed it all together really well, made sure the chicken was coated, and put this on low, and I think I cooked it for 6 hours. And then at the end of the cook time, I just went in and shredded it up. And then we used this to make quesadillas. We had quesadillas and some carrots and ranch and stuff on the side, fresh veggies. And then if anybody wanted more dip, they could eat that too. But that was our pretty simple Super Bowl dinner. Usually I do wings, but we were out during the day playing Pokemon and I really did not want to come home and have to do wings. So basically we came home and dinner was ready. All I had to do was shred the chicken and make some quesadillas. Monday night we had this cheesy broccoli smoked sausage pasta. I saw the idea for this on Lemonade, but there was no recipe to go along with it, so I was just kind of winging it. Sounded simple and easy enough. So I'm starting off with 1 package of sausage that I have sliced up, and I'm going to put that in my skillet and let it brown, and then once it is browned, I removed it from the pan. Then I'm going to be using the Knorr cheddar broccoli pasta. And so I'm using 3 packages. If you only want to do 1 or 2, you're going to use the water and milk and butter that your packages call for. I am using 3 packages, so all of the milk from all 3 packages, all of the water from all 3 packages, and all of the butter from all 3 packages, and let that come to a boil. And basically from here, we're just following the instructions for the pasta. Once it comes to a boil, you add in the pasta and the seasoning mix, and then I am also adding in 1 bag of frozen broccoli, and I'm going to let that come back up to a boil. And then once it comes to a boil, I reduce the heat to like a medium low and let this just simmer for, I think it took about like 10 minutes, just stirring it every once in a while until the pasta was done and that liquid was pretty much fully absorbed. Then I tasted it to see if I needed to add any extra seasoning. Sometimes these can be a little bit salty, but I think because I added the broccoli, it kind of like soaked up some of the saltiness. So I did end up adding in some pepper, garlic powder, and onion salt. And then I'm adding in my sausage, and then I did a little bit of shredded cheese. I did a little bit of Mexican that I had in the fridge, and then a little bit of cheddar. Just used up the last of those 2 bags. Gave that a good stir, mixed it together really well, and then we served this up, and I did nothing to go with this. It was just this. I mean, you've got your grain and your protein and your veggie, and it's just everything all in one, and it was super simple and delicious. Tuesday night we did meatloaf. It had been a while since we've done meatloaf. This recipe comes from my Better Homes and Gardens cookbook that my dad gave me when I was either 17 or 18, and it was one of the first recipes that I ever made from there. So it is definitely a family favorite because I've been making it a very long time. I'm starting off by whisking together 2 eggs, 3/4 of a cup of milk, and then I'm doing my seasonings, about 2 tablespoons of parsley, some salt. I did oregano, but you could use sage or basil. The recipe always says like one or the other. And I think I usually do oregano, but sometimes I do basil. It's just like whichever one I find in my drawer of seasonings first. Some pepper, and then you can also add in 1/4 cup of finely chopped onion. Usually I leave that out, not because I hate onion anymore, but because of laziness. So I did add in some onion salt, and then I'm going to also add in 2/3 of a cup of some dry breadcrumbs, and usually I do use the Italian seasoned ones, but you do not have to. I mix that all together really well, and then I'm going to add in my ground beef. I did probably closer to 2 pounds, but the original recipe calls for 1.5 pounds. But I did 2, added that in, worked it all together with my hands, and then I'm going to pat it into a loaf pan and bake this on 350 degrees for about an hour. And then when it gets close to the end of the cook time, I'm going to mix together my little ketchup topping. This is a 1/4 cup of ketchup with 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and a teaspoon of dry mustard, and mix that together really well. And then once your meatloaf comes out of the oven, you want to kind of pat off any excess grease, kind of tilt the pan, get any out from underneath that you can, and then you're going to spread on that ketchup mixture, and then this goes back in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. The top will get a little like golden, and the meatloaf should be cooked all the way through when you bring it back out. I let it rest for about 10 minutes and then slice it up, and we served this with some mashed potatoes and green beans. Wednesday was super simple. We just did regular old spaghetti night, although I think I actually didn't use ground beef. I think I used ground sausage this night, so I guess it wasn't regular old spaghetti night. But just sausage browned up with some marinara sauce, spaghetti noodles, and then some steamed broccoli on the side. And finally, for the last meal of the week, Thursday night, we had some chicken and gravy that I made in the Instant Pot over some egg noodles. So here I have my chicken in the Instant Pot. This is some chicken thighs that are still partially frozen. I am seasoning them all over with some garlic powder and pepper. I'm not doing salt because I think these other ingredients will add enough salt. I'm doing 2 of the Kinder's chicken gravy packets, and then a can of cream of chicken soup. and then 2 cups of chicken broth that I have made with water and nor chicken bouillon, which is where the salt is. The salt is in all 3 of those last ingredients, so no extra salt needed. I whisked that together a little bit, and then I'm going to put the Instant Pot lid on this and cook this on manual, high pressure for 12 minutes. I let it do a natural release for 10, and then after the 10, I went in and turned the valve and released any other steam that was still in there. And then I went in and shredded up my chicken. You could remove it and like dice it up or slice it up, but I chose to just use my little meat chopper and shred up my chicken. Then I made some egg noodles on the stovetop and served this chicken and gravy over the egg noodles, and it was so good. My family goes crazy for some meat and gravy over egg noodles or rice or mashed potatoes. All 3 of those things they love it on, but more specifically rice probably, or egg noodles. I prefer mashed potatoes, but this was really good, and I topped mine with some extra pepper, but I loved the flavor of that Kinder's chicken gravy. We tried the turkey one at Thanksgiving and Christmas, loved it. Love the chicken one just as much. It has a nice good flavor, and I will definitely keep buying that, especially when it's on sale. But that is going to be it for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope that you guys got some new meal ideas or some motivation to cook more for your family. If you plan on trying any of the recipes that I mentioned, let me know which ones in the comments down below. Don't forget, any recipes that I mentioned are also always linked in the description box, so it makes it easier for you to find them. If you made it here all the way to the end, leave me a smiley face emoji down in the comments. Let me know that you did. I hope y'all have a great week, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!